Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be talking about how all lives matter. And what was interesting was I saw a Washington Post study, and it talked about how there were 902 people that were shot dead by the police this year. And 31 of them, were black and not armed. Okay, that comes to 3.4%. And 666 of these killings were associated with crime that were volatile or violent, I understand. But actually, 433 were white and Caucasian, white/Caucasian, I should say. Anyway, I mean, we're just saying all kinds, people unarmed being shot. You have animosity between races all around, not just one, not just A to B. I mean, you have it going on everywhere. There's so many unnecessary killings. It's not even funny. When I look at this stat, okay, according to Wikipedia.org, I couldn't get anything for 2015 or 14, but I got 13,176 homicides in 2013. And I mean, I believe if I remember correctly, that was down from the previous year, but that's still way too many of people dying. I understand that people can be killed. People may kill in self-defense, or if there is a volatile attack from another person with a deadly weapon and they're in fear for their life, they're in a state of trepidation or something. Yes, I understand that, but we have to do something to try to, I understand you're not going to eradicate this completely, but as far as unnecessary killings go, there may be ways to diminish it. There have been things that have been talked about for years, but for whatever reason, they don't come to fruition. I thought was interesting was that I wasn't aware of this, but according to Statista.com, approximately 45% of U.S. households possess a gun. Now, this is okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with people possessing a gun, especially if they're in a neighborhood where it has a very excessive high crime rate, especially robberies, or you're fearful somebody's going to get into your place or something. That I can understand. You're in a high crime neighborhood and you have a permit and you're doing it legally. You're not out going on some rampage or shooting spree and just indiscriminately shooting people for just because, for just stupid reasons. I do understand for protection reasons. The problem is that sometimes, of course, you have the guns get in the wrong hands. Now, I do understand, I think there is a very stiff penalty. I don't know if it's consistent throughout the U.S. or it varies state to state, but buying a gun for somebody that is not doesn't have a permit can hold some strong legal repercussions, and you could, I believe, can be incarcerated for a fairly good period. The thing about this is another thing I want to touch up on, not just murders, but people dying because of suicide. Now, the article or the blog was on October 8th, 2014. This is based on 2012 stats that the suicide rate was 12.6 suicide deaths per 100,000. I mean, I know that might not sound like much, but it's still, you don't want anybody committing a suicide. And really, it's people, I think, have a misconception about the suicides, that somebody will kill themselves. They think, well, it's because they want to kill themselves. Well, maybe in some isolated, remote cases, but I think the general majority of people that do that kill themselves, it's because they can't find another recourse or course of action to take. They're so despondent, and they're in this state of perhaps hopelessness. which makes them feel that there's no other, or there's no last, that's their last resort. They can't survive anymore. There's people, some of you may remember, I believe, there was someone that jumped off, it was a girl, I believe, was cyberbullied. I don't know if it was about a year ago. I don't remember exactly when this happened, but she had jumped off a water tower because she had been bullied unmercifully, the cyberbullying unmercifully. And I mean, it's just terrible how these things could happen. And the thing about this is they talk about some of the things connected with the suicides could be maybe excessive use in maybe the prescription painkillers. I mean, when people commit suicide, they're often stated despondency, some depression, hopelessness, picked on, ridiculed. They could feel unaccepted, feel ostracized. And really, maybe some prevention methods could be by maybe seeing some signs of this. If a person is becoming more taciturn or more quiet than usual, reclusive, if they all of a sudden they're not as friendly as they had been, you're a parent and you see this, especially if you're some friend and you see something where this person's going through some kind of change in their personality or something, it's always good to maybe try to find out. And sometimes the best way to inquire might be in a straightforward question. I know people might be reluctant to do so or apprehensive, but sometimes that might be the only way to do this. And it could also, I mean, what it is you have to just whoever it is, whether you're a parent or you're a close friend or something, you just have to, as far as maybe the warning signs like I described, and also look up, there's obviously a plethora of information on this online. I'm sure that I don't have time, even if I knew it, to go on through all these warning signs, but it's just very important to see this. And you don't mean, regardless of the stats, and even if it sounds minuscule, those numbers were, I think, for the suicide rate, it stated that that had been the highest rate in like 25 years. But that was from 2012. I don't know what the stats are for 2013, 2014, and this year, but still 2012 is fairly close. So the rate might not have deviated that much, but I'm not sure what it is as far as last year and what the rate is right now this year. But another thing is that another thing with the suicide thing, there is a number, I believe, to call. There are outreach or there's a hotline that people can use to call. I don't have the number, but I believe it was online, and when I did a search on the suicide, it came up right on the first page. And another thing, as far as preventive measures, maybe for just unnecessary killings, keep in mind, I mean, it's about being proactive, and you could set up things like have a neighborhood watch if you don't currently have one. And they talked about this. I didn't know if this was fairly new or not. There was something on the Dr. Drew show some time ago, and there was somebody was talking about perhaps setting up something where you would have like a database that would have the people on there that had some kind of mental illness, and it would prohibit those people from purchasing a firearm. And then somebody had told me recently that they've actually, there's been persistent efforts to do that for some time, but it's never come really to fruition. So, I mean, that is just what I've heard. And the thing about it is, I guess because maybe it might be like some kind of privacy violation or something. I really don't know, but for whatever reason, it's never actually materialized. But there can be, they say there could be greater propensity for murder for people with lower IQs, or substantially low IQs, I should say. And the thing about this is just if you see like suspicious activity, don't be hesitant or afraid to call your local police department in your neighborhood. And the thing is, really, you have to do something too about what I don't thing I don't understand is, okay, there'll be people that will be bringing guns to, like, you have these shootings in the movie theaters and stuff, and now I don't know if there's been any time when somebody had actually entered a movie theater and shot anybody or something, but places like this and in a lot of other places, maybe they need to start have some kind of metal detection equipment. I mean, I'm really serious. I'm not being flippant or trying to be facetious. That maybe that's a way. If if it's detected, then you just ban them from the place, or they can't come back if they have a weapon. I mean, I think those could be some precaution. That's an idea of a precautionary measure to use, but that is just my own idea. Some may agree with that. Some may think that that's going overboard, but I don't see how it could be going overboard if it can be a preventive measure, and it could, as far as diminishing the chances of somebody being shot by somebody that's psychotic or whatever the reason is that they're doing their shooting. So I think it's very important to remember this and to keep in mind that all lives matter, and it doesn't matter what race, creed, or color you are. We're all in the Creator's world, His kingdom. We're all people. We're all Homo sapiens, and we all belong in one group. We should not be even separated by color. We should be united by being human beings. And really, and another thing I want to say is that, I mean, sometimes people that become acrimonious, or they're in a bad mood and they start hating the world, there's no need to go out and just shoot somebody because of that, because it's not anybody else's problem but the person, his or herself. And you just see a lot of killings that are just over things that are so insignificant and trivial, and just taking a person's life. I saw something on a Forensic Files episode one time where apparently some guy, I guess he was like some big wheel in his local community, in his town or whatever, and what happened was he became incensed because I don't know if it was a biological daughter, is either that or a stepdaughter, and he caught her on the phone after forbidding her to go on the telephone, and he punched her. And what happened was, to cover up the crime, he wound up murdering her. He murdered her. What the investigators, I believe, surmised was because he didn't want his reputation to be diminished in the town, and maybe he thought his job would be in jeopardy. So, well, he said, well, I'll just murder this person. And just, to me, I mean, it's just terrible how you see things do this that are so senseless, and murdering for trying to get rid of somebody so you could get your inheritance sooner or something. I mean, really. And it just makes you wonder where these people's minds are at. And that's really what I wanted to get at. And just keep in mind, people, that it's all lives that matter, each and every one of us. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.